Who was Monica White? The dating app killer true story warning. Spoiler warning, this video contains disturbing details about the real-life case behind the dating app killer, the Monica White story, including Monica White's encounters with Anthony Robinson, the murders he was convicted of, and how she escaped a potentially deadly situation. What if the person you met on a dating app wasn't who he claimed to be? For Monica White, that nightmare became real. In late 2020, Monica was a recently divorced woman in Pennsylvania who decided to try online dating. She was 53 at the time and was hoping to find companionship and perhaps start a new chapter in her life. Instead, she matched with a man named Anthony Robinson. At first, there was nothing obviously terrifying about him. They talked online, they communicated regularly, and, according to Monica's account, Robinson seemed charming and interested in getting to know her. But when they finally met in person, things started to feel very different. And what Monica didn't know was that the man she was dating would later become known as the shopping cart killer. So, who was Monica White? What happened between her and Anthony Robinson, and how did she survive an encounter with a man who was later convicted of murdering 2 women? Let's go back to the beginning. After her divorce, Monica decided she was ready to start dating again. She joined the dating app Tagged, where Robinson contacted her. His opening message was friendly, and the two eventually began talking and video chatting. Robinson reportedly told Monica that he had children and had worked in different jobs, including cleaning and waste-related work. Nothing about the initial conversations immediately revealed the danger. But when Robinson traveled to Pennsylvania to meet Monica in person in early 2021, she began noticing red flags. One of the first things he reportedly said to her was that he didn't like being rejected by women. Looking back, Monica recognized that statement as a warning. At the time, however, she didn't know what it really meant. Robinson also appeared to move extremely quickly. He talked about moving in with Monica, despite their relationship being very new. For someone she had only recently met, that intensity made her uncomfortable. And then his behavior became increasingly disturbing. According to Monica's account, Robinson tried to restrain her during an intimate encounter. She told people that he tried to tie her up and pulled her arms behind her before grabbing her neck. Monica made it clear that she did not want that. That should have been enough to end everything. But Robinson returned again. And during another visit around Monica's birthday, his behavior became even stranger. He reportedly urinated in her bed. For Monica, that was one of the final warning signs. She realized that the man she had met online was not the person she thought he was, and she decided the relationship had to end. What she didn't know was that she had just walked away from a man who would soon become the focus of a major murder investigation.
Monica told Robinson to leave. She even gave him money to help him get a ticket home. But he didn't immediately leave the area. Instead, he eventually stayed at a motel in Harrisburg. According to Monica, Robinson later offered her $500 to come and see him at the motel. She refused. That decision may have saved her life. Monica later recalled seeing Robinson outside the motel while she was driving past, and she said he looked completely different. His appearance had changed, and she felt as though something had snapped. After that, she never saw him again. Months later, everything changed. In November 2021, police arrested Anthony Robinson in connection with the deaths of 2 women in Harrisonburg, Virginia, Aline Beth Redman and Tonita Smith. Investigators had discovered the women's bodies in a vacant area, and surveillance footage became an important part of the case. Police alleged that Robinson had met women through dating websites, brought them to hotels, and then killed them. The nickname shopping cart killer came from investigators' belief that he used shopping carts to move victims' bodies after the murders. The case became much larger as investigators examined Robinson's possible connections to additional deaths. But it is important to separate what was proven in court from what investigators suspected. In January 2025, Robinson was convicted in Virginia of charges connected to the murders of Redman and Smith. In May 2026, he was sentenced to 2 life terms for aggravated murder, plus additional prison time for concealing the bodies. The authorities have also investigated possible connections between Robinson and other women's deaths, but those cases should not be described as convictions. For Monica, discovering the truth was horrifying. She had spent time with this man, she had allowed him into her home, she had slept in the same house as him, and she had introduced him to people close to her. Then she learned that the man she had met through a dating app had been convicted of killing women. Monica later told people that she believed her rejection may have contributed to Robinson's snapping. But there is something important to understand about that statement. Monica was processing an incredibly traumatic experience. His violence was his responsibility. She did not cause his crimes by rejecting him. In fact, her decision to trust her instincts and end the relationship may have protected her from becoming another victim. That is one of the most disturbing aspects of her story. There wasn't necessarily one huge moment when Monica suddenly realized she was dating a murderer. Instead, there were small warning signs. He moved too quickly. He didn't respond normally to rejection. He crossed physical boundaries. He behaved unpredictably. And he didn't respect her decision to end the relationship. Those details matter because real danger doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it appears as behavior that makes you uncomfortable before you can explain exactly why. And Monica listened to that feeling.
The Lifetime movie The Dating App Killer, The Monica White Story, dramatizes Monica's experience, with Lela Rochon portraying her and Jarod portraying Anthony Robinson. The movie premiered on February 14, 2026, and is based on Monica's real-life experience. But like many true story adaptations, it should not be treated as a documentary. Some details are condensed, rearranged, or dramatized for storytelling. The real Monica's account is much more important when trying to understand what actually happened. She wasn't looking for danger. She was looking for companionship after a difficult period in her life. She met someone online who initially appeared normal, and when his behavior started making her uncomfortable, she made the difficult decision to walk away. That decision became critical when investigators later revealed who Anthony Robinson really was. And there is another important part of Monica's story that shouldn't be overlooked. She survived. She recognized that something wasn't right, even though she couldn't initially explain why. She didn't know she was dealing with a man who would later be convicted of murder. She simply knew that she didn't feel safe. That distinction is important. You don't need proof that someone is dangerous before you're allowed to leave. You don't need to wait for something terrible to happen. If someone's behavior makes you uncomfortable, that feeling is enough to create distance. Monica's experience also highlights why online dating can create unusual risks. A person can spend weeks talking to you through a screen. They can tell you stories about their life. They can appear charming and trustworthy. But you may know very little about who they really are. That doesn't mean dating apps are inherently dangerous. It means that trust should develop gradually, and personal boundaries matter. Monica's story is ultimately not about being foolish. It's about surviving a situation she didn't fully understand until much later. And perhaps the most chilling part is how close the timeline was. She met Robinson in late 2020. She ended their relationship in early 2021. He was arrested in November 2021. And only afterward did Monica understand the horrifying truth about the man she had allowed into her home. So, who was Monica White? She was a Pennsylvania woman who entered the dating world after divorce, hoping to find a relationship. She met Anthony Robinson through a dating app. She noticed increasingly disturbing behavior. She ended the relationship, and months later, she discovered that Robinson had been arrested in a murder investigation. He was eventually convicted of murdering 2 women and, in May 2026, was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. Monica survived because she trusted her instincts and got away. And that's perhaps the most important part of her story. The warning signs didn't arrive with a siren. They appeared slowly. A strange comment, a boundary crossed, behavior that didn't feel right, a person who wouldn't accept rejection, and eventually the realization that something was wrong. Monica White listened to that realization, and that decision may have saved her life. Her story became the basis for The Dating App Killer. But behind the movie is a real woman whose experience serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most important warning sign is simply this: something doesn't feel right. And when you feel that way, you don't need to explain it to anyone. You can leave.